Hey, everybody. My name is Ted Stevens. I'm one of the principals at NewMed Group and one of the people that work on communications for South Dakota Gives. Thanks for joining us today for this quick 10-minute primer on how to use video for South Dakota Day of Giving. My colleague and friend, Tony Cody, is with us today. He is our videographer and video producer at the NewMed Group, and he's streaming in from New York City, which is where your home is, right, Tony?
That's right. That's right. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your expertise with us today. So, like I said, we're here to just talk a little bit about, what some nuts and bolts are about putting videos together as you prepare for South Dakota Day of Giving. We've got some tips and tricks, and maybe we'll generate a few ideas for you as well. And if you have questions or comments that you want us to try to answer, feel free to add them to the chat, and I will do my best to answer them either during this conversation or as we get off the stream. Tony, one of the things that you and I were actually talking about this morning before this stream was what the perceptions or the misperceptions are about how people use video. I know for me, I've always thought video to be something that's kind of intimidating, right? That it feels like it can be something that's very complicated, that it can be very expensive as well. And I think what we often forget is that we use photography and video in our everyday lives. I mean, just yesterday, I'm in New York City today too, and I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and there was this really, really cool light installation. And these two kids that were probably 4 or 5 years old or whatever, like that, clearly brothers, were interacting with the light installation, creating shadows and stuff like that. And I was sitting there taking in the art and watching them interact with it, grabbed my phone and took some video of it and threw it up on Instagram, because it was just this beautiful moment about how art impacts, kids as young as 5 or 4, and I know that you, are out on the streets of New York often. You're a skateboarder as well. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Not at all.
And I see, you using video kind of in your everyday life. I'm just curious, like, what inspires you to pull out your camera and, take a photo or shoot some video in your everyday life?
Sure. For me, it's just, is there something I'm doing that I want other people to see? Is this, it could be something as simple as the sunset that day is looking amazing, or it could be maybe, showing off your talents or whatever. There's a lot of good reasons, good excuses to pull out your camera and document whatever you're doing.
Well, and the thing is that, like, whether it's, what your experiences are in the city or what a nonprofit's experiences are in South Dakota, it's shining a light. It's giving a glimpse into like a moment in a day, and really ultimately like what, for nonprofits in South Dakota, what the impact of their work is. We don't get to see what it means to support people with affordable housing or, an arts program or an education program or, food. We don't get to see that every single day in the work that we do, but we can use photography or we can use video as a way to share a moment in a day that ultimately might propel somebody to want to be part of the organization as a volunteer or possibly make a contribution. So let's think about, I want to talk about like nuts and bolts a little bit about putting together videos. So you're a professional videographer. You've got a lot of equipment. You've got the fancy cameras, the fancy lenses, the fancy lights, all the bells and whistles. But we know that you don't actually need all of that to take effective video. So I'm going to make an assumption here that a lot of the people, myself included, on this stream are probably using our iPhones or some sort of phone to shoot photos and videos. And I'm wondering if you might share with us a little bit about like how to shoot great video on your phone. Do you have some tips and tricks that you might be willing to share with us? Maybe let's think about like filming first. How do we film
Sure.
video?
So I think the first thing you want to think about is, where is this content going to live on the internet? What platform are you going to post it on? Is it going to be on an Instagram story? Because if that's the case, you'd probably want to shoot it vertically, and if it's going to be on the computer for people to look at that way, we have horizontal screens on our computers. You'd probably want to shoot it horizontally. So that's the first thing. You go into filming with that in mind before you.
And I want to actually, so because I kind of screw this up every once in a while myself, but horizontal, vertical.
Yes.
Right.
Also known as portrait and landscape.
There you go.
Yeah.
As well, but I actually think that's an important distinction.
Definitely, yes. Vertical, horizontal, yes.
What about rear-facing camera versus front-facing camera? We talk a little bit about that and the advantages of either one of those.
So, of course, if you're filming other people, if you have the luxury of having someone who could film you, have them use the rear-facing camera. It's going to be a little, that one. It's going to be a little bit sharper. The rear-facing camera is always slightly higher quality. But with that said, both cameras nowadays are totally usable. If you are just filming by yourself, definitely I would 100% recommend using the selfie camera. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. You're going to be able to see where you are in the frame. You're going to see, does the light look okay? Am I too dark in the frame? Am I too bright? That's the first thing. So, if you have the luxury, like I said, of having someone else film you, I would go that route, but it's totally not necessary. So one thing I think that I would like to talk about, which more and more people I'm finding out don't know, is there's a thing. Let me see if I could get this working here. Okay, so this is my selfie camera. Or actually, this is not myself. This is my rear-facing camera. So everything's a little backwards for me, so this is a little tough. But,
yeah, me too.
right here, you have this HD30. This is a very good thing to take note of. So right there, I just tap that, and I switch it to 4K. If you're using the rear-facing camera, shoot in 4K. Why not? Use the highest resolution you could possibly use. Doesn't hurt. If you're doing a selfie, you might be limited because, as to how high that resolution can go. At least it is for me, because I have an older iPhone. If you have a new iPhone, I'm pretty sure they could do 4K, right, Ted? Yours could do 4K. So me, I'm limited to HD only when I'm shooting the front-facing camera. But that's totally fine. And then you have your frame rate over there as well, which you can change. But I'd recommend shooting at 30. 30 is the frame rate they use on news broadcasts and documentary films. And I think most of the content that, we would be putting out there, it's more of documentary style instead of a cinematic approach. That's not necessary. So 30 frames per second is probably your best bet with that. Another thing to note, I'll go back to this. So let's see here. If you tap, obviously you want to make sure your face is in focus. And if you hold down your finger and you drag down, you can see there's this little meter that's changing the exposure of your image. So if your face has too much light hitting it, you can drag that down and you can get your face nicely exposed in the frame, and it'll look a lot better, obviously, than if you didn't do that. And it'll hold that exposure, at least it should hold that exposure throughout the entire recording once you start recording. So that's a really big one that a lot of people tend to not know. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure.
Talking about exposure, what about light? So, I'm being really intentional right now about trying to use the natural light that's coming from the window that's right to the left of me to so people can see me, right?
Sure.
And I'm not in shadow. But will you talk a little bit about how we use natural light or professional light to make sure that people can be viewed really easily on
Yeah.
film?
So if my rule of thumb, if you're shooting indoors, and especially if it's a nice sunny day, try to shoot near a window. It will make you want to be present in the frame. You want to be able to see yourself clearly. You don't want to look like you're in the shadows. It's if you have access to a window, try to be near it. You don't necessarily want the sunlight directly hitting your face. So if the sunlight is blasting through your window, maybe try to be like close to it where you're not getting the direct sunlight, because then your face is going to be overexposed and everything else will be darker behind you. So, but if you don't have the luxury of shooting your video near a window, or if you want to be outdoors to film whatever content it is, ideally, if it's a really bright sunny day, shooting your video near a window, try to shoot in a shaded area. It just looks a lot better on your skin. It's just harsh light is not your best friend when you're taking videos of your face. So that's just my tip for as far as lighting goes. And then if it's an overcast day, you have nothing to worry about. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the best.
Cloudy, it doesn't matter where you are. Everything will look a lot more diffused. The lighting will be nice and diffused, and it'll look good. So.
What about sound? So you're not using earbuds today. I am, but what's the benefit of either one of those
Sure.
when you're shooting video, both indoors and outdoors? Will you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I can definitely say if you're shooting outdoors, use the earbuds. They're gonna make everything a lot better as far as the background sounds that you're hearing. It'll kind of isolate that out and make your voice the main thing you hear. Indoors, you can definitely get away without using them, I would say, unless you're in a very noisy environment. Again, if you're in like a warehouse or something, and there's a lot of background noise, then that's the most ideal situation where you're going to want to have headphones with a microphone on them versus your device's speakers.
Yeah, awesome. So kind of moving on to some of the ins and outs of maybe how to do this in a really good and thoughtful way. I thought about tripods. So again, you have a couple tripods, I think, in your office space, but I don't. So, how do we frame up ourselves, on camera, when we want to take a quick video to share something?
So
any ideas there, if you don't.
So it could be as simple as just putting your phone on your desk, stacking some books behind it to create your own little tripod, or anything. I have like a plant here on my desk. That would make a great tripod for me to just lean my phone against. And as long as you can get it where it's not going to fall, and you can see where you are in the frame, and it's not, you don't want your phone like really low from your face. But yeah, you want to be right in the middle of the frame if you're filming yourself. And you could use anything around the house or office or wherever, and it'll serve as a tripod.
Yeah. So, you and I recently have been working on some like music videos for a virtual concert event that we're working on producing. And we've been doing some things with teleprompters for the performers so that they had access to that. And, one of the things that I've learned recently is that, again, like you can have a really complex teleprompter set up, or there's a lot of free apps that are in the Apple Store and elsewhere. The one that I'm thinking about is Big VU. Big BU, and I'll put that in the chat for people as well. But that's been a free teleprompter service that we've been using for performers that allows them to be able to have scripted what it is that they want to say if they want that extra support when filming whatever it is, whether it's their 15-second pitch, which nonprofits in South Dakota are going to be doing this week, or some of the other things that are they'll use video for to lead up of the day. But Big BU is a great teleprompter app. There's a bunch of other options out there too that you could use. What about editing? So
I was going to say, speaking of apps, yeah, I think that's a good segue into that. For that, I would say use whatever you have. If you have a MacBook, it's going to have iMovie preloaded on it already. That's what I learned to edit with. It's a pretty bare bones software, but it totally gets the job done. You could add music, you can throw effects on there if you want to. I wouldn't get too carried away with all that stuff. Honestly, less is more when it comes to self-filming. You don't want to try to overproduce it, because especially if you're not a professional, it might look a little funny. Just do whatever you need to do to get your message across, and that should just be the main focus of your video. I wouldn't get too carried away with, because there's a lot of effects and things that you could do in there, but some of them are kind of cheesy. So I would and also if you have any questions with how to use a program, YouTube has every answer imaginable on there. I to this day, I use it all the time. Every time I come across something I don't know how to do, I type it on YouTube. Chances are there's someone out there who has had that same issue or whatever it is. So many tutorials out there. It's a really good place for that. If you don't have a MacBook, I would suggest Windows Movie Maker. It's again another software that should be on every PC. It totally gets the job done, and you don't need anything too crazy. I use Adobe Premiere Pro personally, but that requires a subscription. I believe there's they have Adobe Premiere Rush for iPhone users and probably Android users as well. And I believe that's free. So that's totally an option as well too. If you don't even need to transfer your footage from your phone to your computer, you could do all the editing right there on your phone, which is awesome.
I mean, that's even true with a lot of the phones, that you can just do the editing right in the photo app itself and don't need to move it elsewhere. But just to be clear, we had a question from Sharon. She's asking about PC versus Mac. For PCs, what's the program, or what's a couple programs that they might be able to use?
Sure. Yeah. So for PC, Windows Movie Maker, it should already be on your PC, just the same way iMovie should be on your Mac if you have that.
Great.
And it's like very simple editing software.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I also think about, we've talked about authenticity in video, right? And we also know that short videos can be the most effective, right? Because we're scrolling on social media or moving through videos on YouTube, mm-hmm. Fairly quickly. So I think the other idea is, especially with some of the contests that we've set up for South Dakota Gives this year, some of the prompts, hopefully to get people to get their message out, is that 15 seconds, one take. Don't talk as fast as I'm talking right now, but so talk at a little bit slower speed than what I am doing right now. But just make clear what your mission is and what you'll do with the support that people might be able to offer, whether from volunteering or by making a gift that day, in 15 seconds can be super and highly effective. For organizations. So again, you don't need to go back and edit a bunch of stuff in video, but really get a good, clean 15, 20-second take and get that online.
That's great advice. Yeah. Short and sweet is honestly always the best bet in today's climate of just the way people consume content. Yeah, I recommend that highly.
So maybe a couple of things before we go. I know we're already at 20 minutes, which is kind of crazy. I thought maybe we would fill up 10 minutes today. We have a contest this week at South Dakota Gives. It's a question, it's a prompt that's encouraging nonprofits to, in 15 seconds or less, I think we say, to help people understand what your mission is and why they should donate to your nonprofit, whatever your organization is, on the South Dakota Day of Giving. And I wanted to throw out a couple of ideas of things that you might think about, questions that you might answer as you put those 15-second prompts together. First of all, go back to your mission. And I'm not talking about reading your mission statement, but being able to explain briefly to us, to anybody that would be watching your video, about why your mission matters to the community that you serve, to the people that you support, to the animals that you support. Why is this mission, this work, critical to whomever it is that you're supporting? So think about what that is, and sharing that in an emotional and a meaningful way is a great way to help us understand mission and also about why it matters. Tell people what the money will support. If you're asking for money, if you're asking for a contribution, let people know what that $5 or $10 or $1,000 is going to make possible for your organization. That's something that's important to do in these videos. And then don't forget to ask for support, right? Make the direct ask. You want them to make a donation now, or you want them to make a donation on the South Dakota Day of Giving. I think one of the things that you and I have experienced with other giving days is that we ask people for money, not just on the day, but in the days and the weeks leading up to it as well. Anytime that we have the chance to make that direct ask can be something that's really highly effective for the organization. So making sure that you end that video with the direct ask of volunteerism, of a gift, and helping people understand what it's going to make possible. And then last week, we touched a little bit about this on the social media pro tips that we talked about. But, what are the ways that you can integrate video into your organization? So if people go to the South Dakota Gives Instagram feed today, you're going to see in Instagram stories a little quick video that I've put together that just reminded people that we're doing this this morning. And then there's a whole lot of different ways that we can integrate links or graphics into that quick video that I shot a selfie on my iPhone this morning, inviting people to attend today too. But use Instagram Live to your advantage, because if you notice your own usage on social media, you're oftentimes using that Instagram stories, Instagram Live. That's what you're viewing most of all. StreamYard, again, this is the app that you and I are using right now to do a live stream on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter all simultaneously. It's a relatively cheap service that you can use to have a scrappy conversation like the one that you and I are having, right? Like, we could take a lot of time producing a video and editing down a video and creating animations and whatnot to have the exact same conversation that you, Tony, and I are having right now,
right,
live without a lot of prep time. And so think about using support or service like streaming service like this to your advantage. And then the other thing is to make sure, again, that you're turning the camera with permission on the people or the animals that you might be supporting. So, is there somebody that is really grateful for the support that your organization's been offering, and would they share their thanks, share what it means to them? And again, in a quick 10, 15 second, video, you can help put a face to the work that you're doing every single day as well. So think about that as well. Other than that, I don't see any other questions right now. Do you have any other final words of advice?
I would just say, just try to keep things as authentic as possible. We're living in a day and age where you do not need anything more than the camera in your pocket to make some really engaging content. And yeah, don't overproduce it. Just get your point across the most efficient way possible and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Have fun.
Have fun with it. Yeah.
Too. I know I don't love being in front of the camera. I don't know how you feel about Tony. It's why we got the business maybe of being behind it, right?
I definitely prefer being behind the camera.
But we also know that it's a very highly effective way to be able to raise awareness and support for your organization. So don't be afraid of it. Have fun with it, and take the first step and give it a try. All right. I think that's it. We'll watch for other questions in the Facebook and YouTube chat and try to answer them as they come in. But otherwise, thanks everybody for joining us today. Tony, thanks for taking a half hour out of your day. And
no problem.
I know that you have a lot of video editing to do, so I'll let you get back to it. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.